Well, good morning. It's glad to see each one here this morning, especially for those who are visiting. And as Charles mentioned, we are so glad that our visitors have come our way, and we've always extend a small little invitation for you to remain after services so we can at least get to know you a little bit better and introduce ourselves to you. A little note of congratulations, and of course we rejoice with Greg Ray's friend that has come several occasions that she's visiting with us today. And Lewis has been baptized into Christ. In fact, she was studying with some ladies from over in Northwest in the Hispanic Bible, and she was baptized on Thursday. So we rejoice with that, and you make sure that she knows that as well. There is a saying that has been said about church attendance by those in the church that is found in Hebrews 10. The line many of us have heard over the years, I'm sure. Before I even say it, you probably know what it is. Not to forsake the assembly. Have you ever heard that before? Ever really want to know by those who say this what they really mean by saying it? Are they really inferring and referring to me a have to? Because how often when you try to encourage someone for a Sunday night or Wednesday night, also reply on the other side, well, I certainly don't have to. It doesn't say that in the Bible. You can see where that gets us. When we paint this side of a picture, that too can be what we are suffering from today with a misconception. Have you ever had that said to you? It can almost sound hurtful. Told that to you. Maybe to believe in some way. But this morning, I want to say sadly, most make that as more as a command than anything else and miss the entire point of what the Hebrew writer was trying to convey, to get across. And it becomes so hurtful when we say it the way it's delivered oftentimes. It is oftentimes delivered as a direct command saying, well, you best be going to church and you better not miss. And the reason given is just the one phrase. Over and over you hear people say, you better not forsake the assembly. They actually really cut down on that and really twist that to make it sound like that. It's kind of like telling a child that they better eat their vegetables and never really sitting down and giving us a conclusion or a rational, logical reason to why, outside of a parent's command, well, I said so. You do it because I told you so. And meanwhile, we tell them it's good for them all the while, giving that low-tone growl as parents give to children in those instances. And we hear others have the same approach when they say, don't forsake the assembly. Actually, what the text says is to not forsake the assembling of yourselves, as some do. It's an illustration. It's an example. It's not a command. We are already, by the apostles' example, already to meet on the first day of the week to break bread. See, that's inferred. That's already a reference we understand. And it was given by the apostles, the example. On the first day of the week as they came together to break bread. That just settles it of why they came and how often they came. See, God is not taking an attendance record because that's really not the point. And as I said this before in class, and I'll say to you here, there can be an individual that comes here with 100% attendance record for I don't care how many years you've been coming. And with all that you've heard and digested, if you've never applied it into action, it's worthless. Has no meaning whatsoever. You never really gained a thing. You say you've gained knowledge, but gaining knowledge to become wisdom is applying knowledge. It's not just having facts. There's many people that will have all kinds of facts and facts of life, but that is not wisdom. So when someone comes along and just quotes, well, you shouldn't forsake the assembly, and keeps a record, it's like they're saying that I come all the time and you don't. I mean, at least that's what the tone can come across with many times, oftentimes, if we do that. Do we ever express the real reason why we should meet together outside of some command that we throw out at people? And why we really shouldn't miss? And all we come up with is because it's bad, that's why. Or God says so. Could be another reply. I am saddened that most miss the true nature and meaning of why we shouldn't even want to miss, with a greater opportunity that we all have by coming, and why we should be excited for being here as we anticipate for being here together once again. That when you are not here, that we are truly missed by what we are to receive and give while attending. And we are not to come out of duty or obligation, or not because we come all the time either to make us somehow feel better about ourselves, looking for almost a perfect attendance record either. It's getting to the point in the Christian life that it's our desire to want to be here. So how do we get there? I want you to feel the same way. I want you to feel to come and worship with others who want the same thing, who are striving the same way, and have the same goal in mind. To worship in a congregation of believers that look, and I mean really look and care for each other in the way that this text that is often so quoted by members of the church should be recognized. Because if you look closer at the text found in Hebrews chapter 10, and I'd like for you to turn there so you can kind of look for it yourself. And let's really look at this together, starting with verse 23. Let us hold fast the confession of our hope without wavering. Yeah, that's the same goal I was talking about. For he who has promised is faithful. So let's hold fast the confession of this hope that we all say that we have. What is that confession? That Jesus is the Lord of my life and that I am going to follow him the rest of my days. I choose with a choice. I choose to follow him. Heaven itself is certainly a part of that. And what we profess, and without wavering, we remain steadfast with that hope above all hopes. Verse 24. And let us consider how to stimulate one another to love and good deeds, not forsaking our own assembling together as the habit of some, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day drawing near. See, what I mostly read, and what somehow is missed when we shout to others why they shouldn't miss, by quoting something that's really not there. Well, we just are not to forsake the assembly. What most miss and what others may not hear very much is, I wish you were here this past whatever time it was. It was not because you were told to be here and out of command, but I missed my opportunity, because this is the instruction of me in the Hebrews writer. I missed my opportunity of trying to stimulate you, to help you love more, to help you with good deeds. And I came up with some ideas on that, and for you to do some good things in your life. And I've been thinking about you. That means you've been on my mind. And I missed my time of encouraging you. That's okay. I may get another time when I see you the next time. And you probably, by coming here, missed also your opportunity, according to the Hebrews writer in chapter 10, of encouraging someone else, because that's why we are to come and not miss, and not why we're in the closets with our private prayers. There is a purpose of why we come together, to be here for each other as we live life together, not just show up for church at such and such a time. And when we come to give, don't we feel much better after coming? I just really didn't feel like it. Then I came, and then I came out and I was just revitalized. Well, that's the whole purpose. Well, I kind of came and I just kind of really wasn't feeling it. And then things changed, and I sang a song that spoke to my heart. Or I heard something in a prayer that kind of got me to thinking of something else. See, that's the whole purpose. And sharing with others that we live life with, our lives. I could be feeling so down or in such a way when I came, and I left feeling so much better. Wonder why that was. because you were guilted into coming? Because someone made you? Because someone says, well, you better not forsake the assembly? Shame on us how often we say that. When I come down, did I do what I was supposed to do when I came? Of what I received and what I gave. What I was supposed to give. And so when we get to verse 24, my charge for you this morning that we all need to take ownership of, and let's look at it and highlight it again. It says, let us. Not Eric. Okay, Eric, that's your job. You're supposed to go walk up and down the aisle, and you're supposed to encouraging everybody in love and good deeds, and that's your job. Let us. That's you. That's not just my job. As we're in partnership together. So it's not just my charge for me now, and it considers, let us consider. Now, what is a consideration? A consideration is a pre-thought, by the way. For me to consider something, it takes thought. It's some kind of meditation. It's a planning out. That's what we tell our young people, too, when you want to try to get them into the notion of giving. It's when the check has been given to me, I kind of predetermine how much I'm going to give. I don't wait on a Sunday morning, and I had to learn this lesson, and it's always after your first job, because what happens when you're about 17 years old and you get your first check? It's all about me. Right? My first check is on a Friday. And what usually happens after that? Well, some of us friends get together for pizza before going out to a movie. And so I got to have pizza money, and I got to have movie money, and I got to have gas in the car money. And you see how it dwindles away. And then comes Sunday morning when the plate is passed. If I've had not any consideration to it whatsoever, what have I given God? The leftovers. Well, let's see, I think I have some change. I think I went and bought a Coke while I was in the store getting gas. I think I've got a buck or two. See, that's no consideration. It's not putting God first. There's no planning out. When is the last time that you did that kind of premeditation about someone else before coming to service? Now, that is a challenge, because that's what he's telling us to do. As we race against the clock just to get here, a consideration, I have to put in a little bit more time. A consideration takes time, and it's something that I can't really do properly just by rolling up and quickly just getting here and just sitting down. Because a consideration is this: do I enter your thoughts? And I mean in an encouraging way. Now, well, is he going to go long and we're not going to get to lunch? I'm talking about, do I enter your thoughts before you got here? Did you enter my thoughts before you got here? Do you enter mine? They should. Does someone else enter your thoughts before arriving here? Because when we do that, you see, that's special. If you think about it, it takes someone special to have them in mind, for you to look to encourage. To have you in my thoughts, also even in prayers. In my prayers, because if you think about it, and we're a little selfish on this too, my prayers are pretty special to me, because I've got a lot of needs that go before God on my behalf. And I've got my personal family, and I've got my situation, and I've got all this. But then we get in that church family, and it extends out, and we have requests for prayers, and you remember those too. See, that's special, because it takes a little time, and it takes a little bit of you inside of my thoughts. And now I have you in them. That's special. Because, to be frank, we filter a lot of people in and out of our lives. Based on, well, you've done this to me and now you're out. And then, this is my little core group and this is all I'm going to concentrate. And in fact, we have a little barrier there to make sure that no one else can enter in those, perhaps. We start to really put effort into doing just that. If we really did what Hebrews 10 is suggesting that we do, we will start to see major results. Just trust me on that, because God gives the increase. But the big if is if we can. Because overcoming selfishness is going to be a lifelong battle. Because it's always about me. And putting someone else first, as all those New Testament illustrations show us, about denying self and pick up your cross daily. These are just not words on a page. When is the last time you've done that? If we want the church to grow, like we say we do, and we really be involved, we must understand why we come here and for who. Now, first and foremost, we come to worship the one and true living God. And secondly, we come for each other. I don't come because the singing is the best or mediocre or the worst, or I can be moved by a message per se, or the prayer was either good or bad, or someone to critique everything that happens in a worship service. We can receive those great feelings at church. Could be the best singing ever. I know that sometimes we have our fifth Sunday exchanges in the past when we get together and we have some 300, 400 people together. Oh, the singing was just, that's everybody just remarks about that. But that's really not why we come. That's a great benefit. It's great to fill this auditorium and have all those voices singing out glory to God. Or maybe a prayer that just moved me in such a way. But still, that's not why we come. We can receive those things. And it's not the reverse either. I didn't want to come because such and such may be here. And that one person over there really gets on my nerves. Or those people are so disruptive. See, again, that's just constantly thinking about myself and my wishes. And sadly, whether it's too hot or it's too cold or this isn't right to my liking, if we vocalize them loud enough, and they do with our expressions and how we get that across, do we show why we have come? Maybe begrudgingly ourselves? Because frankly, deep down, I really don't want to be here either, is what I'm really trying to say to everyone else. Because I had to. Most kids think that while growing up. Do they ever see a different side? Because that's what we were talking about in class today, about what Jesus was saying. I want you to do everything the Pharisees tell you to do, but just don't be like them. Because they say all that stuff, but they don't live it. They say all this stuff, and they don't mean it. I don't want you to be like that. Do not be like them. Is it for him and for others? Do I come for those reasons, or do I come for me? There is no wonder so many are far, far away from the church, because we have grown cold to people and their needs first instead of putting mine first. And there can be one here today who has been coming all these years for yourselves and never truly giving anything back. Really how selfish we all can be. And trust me, as I said before, it literally takes a lifetime to rid ourselves of selfishness. It does. It's a daily struggle. When we get the idea that church is just for me and what I get out of it, that's just as wrong for just coming to come. The same can be said about marriage, isn't it? It's what I get out of it is what I put into it. If you don't put very much into a marriage, I will show you a marriage that's in trouble. When someone selfishly looks to their own needs constantly in a relationship, again, that's trouble with a capital T. And every marriage counselor and everything that you read will tell you that if you are just there for your needs only, this relationship is not going to last. It's not. And so how do I overcome selfishness? So I can't, without thinking ahead, make this very possible. If just rush to get here, it's the same charge we need to understand in our giving. We premeditate what we will give before we get here and not wait to see what's left over in the pocket or the purse. All of this can be a little bit more challenging, but it's not impossible. So what is it that I am to consider? To give more consideration and attention. You to me, and me to you, and to each other. That's what the charge is. Take this so much further than thinking that I will just show up today and sit and listen and then leave. See, that's strictly for myself. The Hebrew writer reminds us that we are to stimulate one another to love and good deeds. And then follows the phrase, not forsaking our own assembling together as in the habit of some. Those who just come to come and just show up to show up, be counted and lead. To just show up, as the Hebrew writer says, it's the very reason the Hebrew writer wanted to convey, don't come and gather because we are told to gather. And not miss, so you're accounted for. So don't come here for the perfect attendance record like someone could be searching for, but is used in this verse. But instead of thinking like that, he wants us to keep encouraging one another all the more. Let me ask you this. Are you an encourager or are you a discourager? One of two things is going to happen in every relationship. You're going to either be sitting there to try to encourage, to build one up, to strengthen one up, and to bring them with support, or we can be the world's greatest critic and a discourager. And I always hated, I always saw this, and I can't tell you how many high school students that I've seen play football that say that I'm going to play college and I'm going to play the NFL. You know how discouraging it'd be to say, you know what, you're never going to do that. Are you being a realist? Do you know how many people actually do that? I have never once thrown the water on the little hope of flicker of what could happen. I'll tell you, lessons can be learned very hard in very hard ways about what you think that you know is possible and what you really think you know. I remember watching over here at Cameron Stadium, Sam Bradford, as a high school player when he was with Putnam City North. And Lawton High had 4 interceptions on Sam that night. And as me and another guy that was in the booth says, what is OU thinking? This kid is no good. I mean, because Lawton High was they were just in his back pocket. He just had a bad night. I had not seen any of Sam's previous games posted. I only saw one game. And in my mind, I just thought OU is crazy to offer a potential Heisman Trophy winner, so I can't pick Heisman Trophy winners, and an NFL current player on a roster. See how much you think you know? But I could be that discouraging just with my mouth. And as these young men pass through, and I don't really know what's going to happen. But is it for me to be the discourager? Is it for me to have their little candle, a flicker of hope, for me to get a gallon of water or a 5-gallon bucket and just pour it on them? See, and that's what we do, spiritually speaking, in the church. You can either be an encourager or a discourager. And when is the last time that you've encouraged someone? It could have been when you walked in. And then you're getting Hebrews 10. And I have seen a lot of that. And I've heard a lot of that. And I appreciate that. And I want to encourage that more. That means you've been thinking about it and waiting for this opportunity as soon as you walked in. How many times, you can use Caden as an example. Everybody's been praying for Caden, and how many times that when Caden was sitting there in that chair that many of you walked by to sit down and say, I am so glad to see you. I am so glad you're here. See, that's encouragement. And it means so much to him, and it means so much to us. And if that's the case, well, good. That is what's supposed to happen. And maybe you sent a card. And we've received cards from some of you, and I appreciate it so much that we don't even realize that you're watching and what you're doing, and we want to do the same. It's really done in private, and how much it means so much to us. And how many times have we had people that after they've gone through a loss or something, I appreciate all the what? The calls and the cards and the visits. See, that's getting the Christian life. That's living life together. And in a day that seems to be mixed so much with so much discouragement oftentimes, and we are to continue to encourage. It says continue to encourage, even as you see the day drawing near, the big day in the back of our minds. So my big question as I sat down to prepare this lesson is, how do I consider you to stimulate for you to love and good deeds? And even though I could throw out some good compliments and encouragement, can come by you or by others, I think the challenge is it goes beyond that, because the writer uses the word stimulate. That's a different way to motivate. Stimulation. To stimulate gets the attention with all your senses. That's mind and spirit, so to speak. And you have to be a little careful because we live in an overstimulated society. That's why they say that children that watch these horrendous video games and they play this with death and all that stuff in front of them, they get desensitized to life because they have been overstimulated by all of these senses of what they see and what they hear. There really isn't any meaning anymore. So you see some horrific accident in real life, and I'm not really even fazed by it. I've seen worse. We've been desensitized to it, and our heightened expectations with all of what we see and what we hear, what we feel. And when you cater to just stimulation, that is an endless job. You are never going to, as what they say, the Six Flags stuff is that the roller coasters get higher and faster. Why? Because once you've ridden those, I've ridden that. Now I want something higher and I want something faster. That bar keeps getting raised every time you make the trip. And the expectations get higher and higher. Look at even in music in the churches today. In your lifetime, you've seen so much, from just a one piano to a full orchestra, now to a band. And now there's many congregations of churches out there that are struggling to have traditional worship and modern worship. And what it is that the young people are ditching the piano because they don't take piano lessons, for one. They don't like the piano. We have an electric guitar. We've got drums. And so the older people that were just used to the piano said, I can't stomach that. That's too much. That's out of my taste. See, the sensory stuff about what we have and when we get going and what we keep adding and adding to it. So you have different worships, a traditional worship and a contemporary worship, as they call it. One day, I'm sure that in the next 30, 40 years, you'll probably see the end of the piano and organ. Because that younger generation that didn't want it is not going to all of a sudden adapt 30 years later and say, hey, let's go add what Grandma and Grandpa had. It's not going to happen. It's just going to keep going and rising. And so the thing that was added to one is now several pieces to get this thing through. No end to satisfying what we desire and want for us and for our senses. And so how do I do that for you? How do you do that for me? Do you see our challenge? What does that look like? See, the end result to all of this is what he says is just keep encouraging each other. Just keep encouraging. Why? Because it's Satan, on the other hand, that is telling people you need to give up. They don't really care about you. Just think of how you feel. Encouragement is where it's safe. And encouragement, you can always find it at home. That's why we always like to go home. When you were younger, if things were problems when you were younger at school or on the playground, you went home to get encouragement from who? From mom and dad. With a hug. It's going to be okay. We're going to get through this. And with a family, and that's what we're striving to do here. And it's a challenge because you're difficult to love sometimes. And I'm difficult to love oftentimes. And it takes some time, and it takes commitment that you're that special in my life, because I've got a very busy schedule. But it says, but keep on encouraging, because we're in a spiritual war, and it takes all of us to help see each other through. Now, when is the last time someone mentioned that to you, why you shouldn't miss? Instead of do not forsake the assembly, the next time you hear someone say that, I want you to ask them why they asked that and see if they really do understand what this is all about. See what it is they're trying to tell you in that statement. That they come more often for so many other reasons than they do in what Hebrews 10 is telling us to do. See, because our true heart will give us away every time. And why others, even outside of Christ, should see this all along, because they will know you are Christians. How? By how you love each other. By how you treat each other. And the world is watching. If you don't think that they're paying attention, you've got that wrong. That's why Jesus was the same thing. He was raised with all of their teachings and saw how they lived. Encouraging one another. And why we've come in the first place. Of worshiping Him, yes. In spirit and truth. And I hope that has been uplifting for you as well in your spirit. And that's why even with our singing, it says speak to each other in spiritual songs and hymns. See, that's a language too. You're encouraging someone by you saying, well, I don't sing. You better reconsider that. Because someone else is watching, well, how come such and such doesn't sing? They really not believe this? Do they not love God? Are they afraid of what I may think what they sound like? Or, boy, I'll tell you what, they're just singing out to God. Not that we're supposed to be watching each other. But see, we get encouragement through song, get encouragement by us being here if we have predetermined that in our minds. I hope that has been encouraging to you to kind of refocus of why we need to get here and why we need each other to be here for each other. If we can be of any encouragement to you now, that's why you offer an invitation that we can pray with you and for you. Or maybe you've never obeyed the gospel and we don't want an opportunity to go unnoticed, that is ready and everything is ready and prepared for this moment. Or you just need prayers of the church on something else that we didn't even talk about. You just need some extra encouragement through prayer. Whatever your need is, if you'll come now and make it known as we stand and as we sing.